Welcome on in, GripTV Nation. This is another episode of the GripTV Live Hangout. Today, we are joined by Air Messi, Man Cave, Jay Plays, I'm Showdown, and look who it is. A special guest, Shaun Cole's going to be joining us today for the Hangout. Don't forget to check out the YouTube GripTV Live to see past Hangouts and broadcasts, and we'll be taking your tweets live right here on the stream. Hashtag GripTV Live and at GripTV Live. Wowzers. Shaun, great to see you. How are you? Everyone's excited to see you back at the Sim Pit. Good to see you, buddy.
Thank you, Matt. No, I'm doing great. I'm thrilled to be here. I told you guys beforehand, I'm a little nervous. I'm on the opposite side of the camera that I'm accustomed to being, or at least the opposite side of the interview. But no, I'm real excited. This is fun. I love talking sim racing. Love to be back at the Sim Pit. So great to be here. Well,
it's good having you. And John, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm very, very well, thank you.
Man Cave, how are you?
Whoop, whoop.
And there he is, the alien, Jay Plays. Don't get probed out there, guys. It's Jay Plays.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good. Can we spend like the first 30 seconds talking about JP's hair?
Yeah, what's with your hair, there, JP? Look at it. Would you? That's how you get faster lap times, right there.
Is he taking up Thai boxing?
Dynamic.
Not something I ever have a problem with lately these years. Good hair though.
This aerodynamic cut.
Yeah, there you go. That's how you reduce drag right there.
I just realised he's had that haircut to take the piss out of Shaun, and what a bastard you are, JP.
Oh, look at where I have my hair and you don't.
Yeah. I was preparing this for one.
So excited to see the Sim Pit back in action over on the YouTubes. We noticed that you had a great interview with Glenn McGee. We've been watching Glenn McGee, and as if people don't know, iRacer turned real-life racer in the Mazda, and we've been watching his progress. He's been doing great. What were some of the topics he touched on?
We just, mostly it was about the whole transition. Sim racing is a great preparation or tool for real-life racing, but we know it's not one-to-one or identical. So a lot of it was, what was the transition like, both as a driver and also mentally? I mean, I'm really into the mental aspects of sports and in racing especially. So I wanted to really, without asking him what's on his mind, get into the mindset that it takes to really convert from being a top sim racer to being a top pro real-life racer.
Yeah, I mean, when they had that competition for the Mazda be able to get in a real-life car, and then you saw the participation just skyrocket, and those are some of the best races I've ever been involved in. But, wow, congrats to him. And I remember the one, he was racing at Laguna Seca, and he is like the second to last turn at Laguna, and he goes really wide and off into the dirt and stuff, and he had some issues, and he got back out there and kept it going. But it's just great to see. It's great to converse with him too on the forums as well about how the Mazda actually drives compared to what it is like in the sim, and he says it's pretty dang close in a lot of aspects. Did you get into that as far as
tires and a wheel?
As far as how close each one is?
Yeah, we actually did, because, that's something I also wonder about often. I think when they make a sim car, I think, yeah, they try to emulate a certain car, but no matter what, it comes out as a unique car. Mm-hmm. So even though they might call it an MX-5, I'm thinking, yeah, but it's not an MX-5. It's a MX-10, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, they tried for the MX. So when I heard him talk about how much they're identical, it kind of confirmed with me just how good and how close sim racing is getting. And it's like our engineering could almost design cars and backward and forward now, and I think we're getting to that era where I'm not sure if it happens in a machine shop first or in a computer first, and if it's in a computer first, why can't we drive it before they can build it?
Right. Yeah, you always wonder. We always say, like, are there a bunch of gearheads working at iRacing, or are they a bunch of IT guys, and that's what you wonder.
And I think we've kind of gotten to this hybrid point where, a geek is an engineer and an engineer is a geek, and, it's just a matter of what type of engineering you've gone towards. But if you're in that automotive industry, whether you're working for a Newman Haas or an iRacing, is there a big difference other than physically touching a car, which the engineers rarely do anyway? So,
Well, they missed one major factor out of the last MX-5, the old version, is the rust.
The rust?
They missed the rust, because you can guarantee every MX-5 on the road is rusty. And as a MOT, as a car welder, I have to deal with a lot of that, so I know they're rust.
So if
I
like
haven't seen the new one yet,
yeah.
the old one rusts.
What if you did like a 6-hour endurance race, and then like on the last hour of the race, you start to see the little speckled rust?
At pit stops, the drivers had to put like more nail polish on and have their hair done, and because it's traditionally a hairdresser's car. That's what the UK
Well,
thinks
one of the
about
main
it.
things I have to do on the old MX-5s is that, because for some reason everyone wants to lower them, so they're that low to the ground. The chassis leg is just buckled up like that, and I've got to remake that on every MX-5 I've ever worked on. I've had to remake the chassis legs because they've just been crushed.
Really?
So that would be a main thing. The back ends twist a little bit.
Also, one of the Sim Pit, your YouTube channel, you do some really good DIY stuff, and it was inspiration for me to finally get a 80/20 aluminum rig. You did a really good instructional video on that as far as parts and how to put it together, and you weren't really going off of a plan. You just kind of you came up with your own design. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was just, I mean, freestyle, basically. I mean, I think if you look at most rigs, there's a certain commonality, regardless of what they're made out of. You know, essentially you've got two rails holding the seat, and that's going to ability to hold the upright. And then from there, it's just a matter of reinforcing. And, you know, that same design is actually pretty close to, like, the Deathmobile, the wood rig that I built
yes.
many years ago.
Yeah, we remember that. Yep.
You know, it's kind of, you know, and I'm dying to do this, and I hope no one steals my idea because I'm talking about it. I want to do what I call, like, the junkyard rig, where instead of buying anything, every single part of the rig is something I found, like, on the side of the yard, road, or on the in a junkyard, and it's like, convert this part from a shopping cart and saw it off, weld it on, whatever, and just kind of build a rig out of nothing.
I like
but
that
I
idea.
think I can do it because the base is always so similar. But, you know, like, I'm really glad to hear you built an 80/20 rig. You know, I'm testing the RC-Den 1 right now, and it's an incredible rig, and it, you know, it's a lot of money, but it's an incredible rig.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, God, this is one of the reasons I love sim racing. I could go on and on for hours. I hope you guys have all day. I just love that there's so many different types of personality and people in sim racing. And there are those who are mechanically inclined and want to build a rig. And I don't care how nice somebody could build a rig, they want to build their own for their own self-pride, for their own fun, for their own enjoyment. And then there are others who just shouldn't touch tools. And those guys are obviously going to buy a rig, because if you can't work a screwdriver, don't try to do a DIY. It's not worth your time. You'll frustrate yourself.
If you're seeing Matt building his 80/20 rig, you can see which one Matt was.
Now, where did I put that Allen wrench?
You had a nightmare with that.
Yeah, no. Well, it's not as easy as it looks, you know. When we were in Texas for the iRacing seminar, and I got to meet up with Tony from 4Play Racing Rigs, and he said that a guy ordered a rig. He shipped it to him. It comes in a box. You have to put it together yourself, right? And then the guy calls him, and he's like, this rig has to be put together. He's like, I can't be doing that. And Tony's like, well, I sent instructions. It's not that hard. The guy paid to fly Tony out to his place to put the thing together.
Oh.
Wow.
And he's like, I couldn't believe it.
And that gets to my other point. There are people who work too many hours in the week to waste 4 or 5 hours or 10 hours or 2 weeks building a rig. So I'm going to spend money. I have a good job. I got lots of money. I'm going to buy, you know, whatever rig I want. So I understand and embrace all of the concepts, you know, and you know, I can understand the reasoning behind the guy who refuses to spend money on something that he can build himself. You know, it's the way my grandfather was, for sure, you know. Yeah. So it's practical, and you know, and I'm sure you're learning this now. The one thing I will say about an 80/20 rig, and this is even comparing it to a wooden rig, you're never done. And tomorrow you buy a new product, not a problem. It's gonna work. If product has a hole and a flat piece of metal, it can be mounted to a profile rig somewhere, somehow. End of story. So.
Yep. And speaking of 80/20, how stable it is, JP, you got the direct drive wheel, and you need something stable for that, don't you?
Yeah, well, I have the GT Omega rig, and it's actually flexing a little bit when I'm braking and when I'm manhandling my wheels. Yeah. That's the reason why I broke 2 of my previous wheels, and I went to the dirt dry wheel because the plastic wheels doesn't hold on me. But people see in my stream when I brake, I like to push the wheel and I pull the wheel at the same point, and the rig is giving away. So I'm also on the process for going 80/20 too. So
awesome. You know, one thing I have to say, because I get this email all the time, but 80/20, just so to be clear, is that profile tubing, extrusion tubing. Sometimes it's called slot and groove, channel tubing. Usually it's square shaped. There's a slot down the middle on all 4 sides that accepts hardware and a little nut and bolt. I mean, I need to disclaim that because I get so many emails from people saying, what is 80/20? I saw your video, but I don't even know what this stuff is or where to get it. And, you know, the other thing is suppliers. You can't just go down to Lowe's or Home Depot or your hardware store and buy it. You definitely, from my experience, you need to find a place online. If you type in extrusion tubing or even at 80/20, every country has a supplier so far that I've found. And, you know, anyway, I just want to throw that out there to help anybody who's hearing this.
I built my first rig. I ended up buying, I think it cost me like £75 all in. And that was including because I went to a scrapyard and I wanted a Recaro seat, but it had to be leather. So they didn't have no Recaro. Well, they had half and half Recaros. But they had like a full leather sports seat out of an MGF. So I had that. That cost me like 40 quid. And then I just bought a load of wood and did all the rest. And I loved that, man. That was like my favorite thing ever. Apart from, I ended up, when I got triple monitors, I ended up having to dismantle the table that I built and go back to my old IKEA desk. And it worked out really well for a while. But I've just managed to pick up an Ubuntu for half price, pretty much. They're like 800 quid brand new, and I've got the Revolution with the triple monitor stands as well, so I've just got that, and I really like this rig, man. It's kind of awesome, but like I'm 6 foot, and even with the seat in its furthest back position, and my pedals as far forward and my wheel as far forward as I need to go, I still only have to go like 3 clicks on the seat forward to get to the driving position. So getting in and out, it's like there's nowhere near as much room as I would have liked.
Yeah. That's the reason I had a Opats on Ozone before, and that's the reason why I went to GT Omega rig, because GT Omega has more adjustability considering the person's height. So,
yeah, did you get you got extension bars with that thing? Have you?
Yeah, you have like 4 extension bars on this rig.
No, so I went the complete opposite to JP because I've actually cut. I've got a GT Omega Pro as well, but I actually cut 5 inches out of it, the overall length, and moved it forward, you know, and because I bought the original one that had the monitor mount still on, and that's what this is here. That is actually part of the monitor mount with the old keyboard tray. So I made a keyboard tray exactly where I want it, which I did pinch off Pablo Lopez. So
it's
a perfect place for it.
There are no 2 sim rigs alike, and I found that out in Texas. Even if they have like GT Omegas or an Abuto or something, like there's still like they made a little customization here, or you know, different things here. And so what I like about sim rigs is that every single one of them is totally custom and personalized to the racer, which is great.
That's something I'd like to get back to with the show, but a long time ago we used to feature, sim rigs, and purposely try to get pictures, video of other people's rigs, because like you said, I could be entertained for hours just looking and getting tours of everybody's rigs and what they've done to make it unique. Even if they, like you said, left it bone stock, they've done stuff, where they put it, how they decorated the tour around it, what other accessories they're using.
We've done that once where we had everybody send in a picture of their rig, and it was just fascinating to see, like, oh yeah, this guy's on a desk, but he did this mod, and it's just like you see triple monitors, different ways people did that, and it's pretty awesome to see all that.
I think one of the best ones I've ever seen. Do you remember Ronnie Bryan's?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
It was half an 80/20 rig, and the chair used to swivel off to the left-hand side to put it against the wall.
Yeah.
And stuff. I can't talk now. Tell him I'll phone him.
It was like 2 different positions you could put it in, and then he had, because with 80/20 it's got the slots, and you can slide like panels in there to make it perfectly square, so it doesn't look like a skeleton. It'll actually look like it's boxed in and everything. But
well, you just brought up a really interesting point. This is sort of a different direction, but here we are, sim racers, and we're all computer geeks of some level. We also take our best computer and dedicate it to a rig that is so purpose-built that you can't do anything. I mean, I can't edit, I can't email, I can't... You know, it's like my flagship computer sits useless, and I always have a second computer that's usually like my previous computer, and it's the one that's dedicated to doing a lot of the workload of my everyday life.
Yep, I hear you on that one.
I've just literally done that. My race computer practically burnt out, and I've just swapped it over for my editing computer. So I've got me good one in here and me one that's ready to be rebuilt in another room, you know, for me everyday stuff. So I'm going through that at the moment.
That's crazy.
Well, I haven't designed this yet, but what I want is the dual rig. So if I could like pull a lever and turn my seat, I just haven't figured out a way to do that without compromising the driving position. But it's like I'd love to be able to turn it 90, and I guess my monitor wouldn't be where I need it then, so that kind of screws that up. Anyway, I don't know. It's a problem I have. I need that good computer elsewhere half the time.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I got my station here, and then the other one over there for the office. You know, 2 different computers, because it's just the way it's got to be when you're dedicated. Oh man!
We've actually got our first question for Shaun here, which is it's a normal question for everyone. Is Axel here says, does Shaun understand man cave? Because not many people understand me, because I come from the northeast of England, and we're talking a little bit strange.
I understand you. There are certain words that I have to like say it in my head a second time. Oh yeah, no, I know what you. No, I've understood you perfectly.
You have to listen really hard.
Understands.
Yeah,
that's right, guys. I've known these guys for a long time, and even these struggle to understand us.
We are taking your questions live at Twitter at GripTV Live, hashtag GripTV Live, and look, folks, soon.griptvteam.com. The website is live where you can see the full list of streamers and their latest content, both YouTube and from Twitch, so you can see who's live, who was live, what their VOD was. Take a look at some of the stuff we got there. It's the alpha beta 1.03 version of the site, so check it out, guys. That's for you. There you go. Hey, what big races we got? We got Le Mans 24 hour, October 29th. We're getting Le Mans 24-hour race. I'm so excited for Le Mans because we're gonna do a hosted session where we get like 20 Mazdas and we put them 4 wide on the long straightaway. We have a drag race. What do you guys think?
Yes.
It's gonna be an endurance race just to get into the end of the first straight in there for the Mazdas in there.
It's a long straightaway, right? I mean, Shaun, do you got any experience with Le Mans?
Yeah, obviously in other sims. Yeah, Le Mans. It's one of those things where you fall asleep and then you're like, oh yeah, I got work to do, and then you fall asleep again and then you got work to do. But getting back to what you're saying, 4 wide, maybe 4 wide, couple rows back, and play Ride of the Valkyries. It could be a pretty intense.
Yes.
It sounds like so much fun. We're pretty iRacing heavy here, but I know you dabble in a bunch of different stuff like Project Cars. Very nice shirt. What other sims already have that track? And it may not be laser scan, but it represents it pretty well. Have you driven on the track digitally?
Gosh, I'm trying to think. I think Forza Gran Turismo would be the place that I would have played it most recently. Okay. I'm trying to think about that. Can't recall if it's in Project Cars. It's actually been a while since I played Project Cars. Kind of just weird coincidences. The shirt I grabbed today, actually. But yeah, and for me, doing it in iRacing will be a little bit different, and regardless of where else, because if let's just use Forza as an example, and nothing to take away from Forza, but sim racing in the modern era to me is really about competition and being against the best and being in a really seamless multiplayer environment, and that's my only problem with, I hate to say it, but pretty much all the other sims. I mean, it's like iRacing is the only place that I feel that I can have that competition that is the same level that I would find in real life. So if I did go buy a Spec Miata, or I did go buy a shifter card again, that I'm going to compete at that level of intensity. And to me, that is really what I'm most into now. And I love reviewing all the games. I love great graphics. I love all the things that you're going to see in different games and get a taste and flavor. But Le Mans coming to iRacing is huge.
Yeah, it really
Being
is.
able to do an endurance race at Le Mans in iRacing is huge. And I'm really looking forward to it.
It is in Project Cars. I've just checked.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
Memory of that, yeah.
Now, is it the fact that people don't know about iRacing and that they gravitate towards like the simcades? Is it the simcades just draw more people because it's easier? Is it their advertising? I mean, iRacing's pretty dang small as far as, active. I mean, when you compare it to something like the Forza. But what is it about like all these simcades that people are just drawn more towards them? Is it the graphics and singly?
I think that one thing that iRacing does not give you, and I hate, but this is the double-edged sword of where iRacing lives. They don't have fun factor or that ability to jump in and play for 5 minutes and then go away.
Yeah.
And when I play other types of games, like I play World of Warships, I love that game. I can get in there and play for 20 minutes and then just leave. It didn't take me any warm-up, didn't take me any shutdown. I'm not committed to any of the people. My record is semi-private. And iRacing, you're always accountable. And even I feel like I'm always accountable for my actions at every moment, even in practice sessions. And my hat's off to them for even being able to create that feeling. But I can jump on any of the other sims and just have fun. And yeah, I do feel the graphics are better. To me, that's less important, but I think to the masses, it might be a little more important to me. And then here's the other thing. Getting back to the diversity of sim racers or sim racing, not all of us are sim racers. A lot of us are sim drivers. A lot of us are just car enthusiasts. And it's not about competing. It's about hearing the sounds. It's about seeing the interiors. When Forza came out with the Auto Vista, that was a really cool dynamic thing. And I think it actually drew a lot of people towards that game, even though they may or may not even drive it. But it was like, wow, here's my real-life road and track in person, and I control it. And so, yeah, I think that there's a lot of people who... I have friends who don't sim race. They just sim drive. They have their favorite track, favorite car combo. They're time trialing against themselves, perhaps. And then the other is, and I hate to point this personality flaw of humans, not everybody's ready to realize they're not at the top of the ladder. And you come into iRacing and you realize how quickly, how mediocre you are.
It humbles you pretty quick.
It does. And I think a lot of people just, for me, that's it makes me mad that I'm not the best. And I know I'm far from it, but still, I guess I have this tremendous ego that says, you should be the best, work harder.
Right.
And I haven't achieved that or anywhere near it still, but I'm inspired by not being as good at something that I want to be great at. So this is where I belong. Mm-hmm. But I think that is a deterrent for me.
I race on a Sunday night with a bunch of friends. We started out with like race 07, then we went through all the F1s, and we've been in Project Cars for over a year now. And we did actually. This is how I found iRacing, is because when they all got sick of the Formula One franchise, the last three were terrible. But like 2 years ago, we came with some of them were like, oh, let's go and try iRacing. So of course I went and tried. And I was the only one that stuck with it. A couple of the other guys still subscribe, but they just don't bother racing anymore. But more often than not, it was just too hardcore for a lot of the guys who basically just turn up once a week to race with the boys, So that's why we do the Project Cars thing, and we like that. It's just the whole thing of like everything which is like a simcade is just much more pick up and play like for everybody. And it's got a much bigger demographic then.
I remember when
go ahead, sorry.
I remember when I first heard about iRacing, because I had been playing Forza, and those are like 3-lap races or whatever, and I wanted something a little bit more hardcore. And then I heard about iRacing, and I'm like, I was like, whoa. I was like, this may be a little bit too hardcore. But once you get into it, you're like, oh, man, this is exactly what I wanted. So maybe people are a little intimidated, I think, by iRacing.
Well, if I have a friend come over who has never sim raced, to be honest with you, I usually stick him in like Dirt 3 first, because you can almost do no wrong as a driver, and it's graphically amazing, its sounds are amazing, and it gets them into that smiling face, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And then if they turn out to be pretty decent and understand the controls and understand the brake stops the car, then I can put them into iRacing. If they're just a mess, which I see often, then have lots of fun going over jumps and stuff. You know?
Right.
Steve, John, you guys, where are you guys on the whole iRacing dirt thing?
I personally am not happy about it.
Our other guy, Outlaw KR, if he was here, he'd be excited. He's more of an oval guy.
Yeah.
I'd much rather them get the game right than diverting resources away from making tarmac perfect.
Right.
It might not happen, I know. But then also there was the other thing, like they did that showcase of like the Fiesta jumping over that jump, which sort of suggested Rallycross. And I'm like, what are they going to do about that? The cars are so fragile already that you touch anybody, your car's totaled. Rallycross is all bumping and punching and kicking and fighting and pulling hairs, all that. That's all that goes on in that. And then you got the whole incident system. Are they going to just do it just for fun or what? You know, I guess you see what comes out in the wash at the end of the day, but I'd much rather them do what they got right perfect, because at the moment, like R Factor, the only thing it's got over iRacing is everybody says the physics are better. Why not just make the physics the best?
Right. The only thing that I would say that may come out of this on the positive side is the way that they're doing the track itself now. It's multi-layered. So maybe that'll transfer into more of the tarmac stuff, where they'll be able to have the track itself more dynamic. I don't know. I think it's neat, but it's not really the direction I would want them to go in right now. But we'll see. What do you think, JP?
Yeah.
Do you do some F1 racing on dirt?
Well, that would be interesting. Good try when we get the dirt track variations for the tracks we have, for example, Trans Hatch. I'm still a little bit undecisive about the dirt. Should I buy, for example, the Rallycross content? Not quite sure if I just fear that when I buy it, it's like that I do maybe a couple of races in there, and then I'm back on the road, because road racing is my main thing, and it gives me the most excitement. Because I know, for example, I have been driving the dirt rally. Dirt rally is fun. It's fun to challenge yourself to drive the corners as fast as you can, but when you're just driving against yourself and against the clock, it doesn't give the same excitement for me as the iRacing gives when you're racing other 10 people on the same track. So, I don't know.
Yeah. I think dirt will be a good change of pace. You know, if you're kind of grinding it out there, with races and bag, well, switch over to dirt here for a little change of pace. Maybe
it could be fun with the nation.
Right. Just don't release it unless it's right. But then again, iRacing likes to release stuff, so then we test it. And then we give their feedback, which, with a small sim like it is, that's understandable. They use us as guinea pigs, but
that's the nature of every online game, though. They all do it, even though they pretend not to.
Right. Questions coming in from the Twitter. Have you had any experience with VR, Shaun? And if so, how do you think VR, with the VR headsets now, are going to be able to enhance sim racing?
I've been doing a lot of VR work, actually. Not so much on the show, but more other stuff I've been playing around with and doing. But VR is, I want to say it's the total way of the future, except for it has a couple of obstacles that are going to prevent certain people from ever doing it at all. So, like any 3D, if you have any big deficiency between two eyes, it might be hard to get the real effect of it, just like 3D shutter glasses. It really depends on both eyes working together. And so if you have big separation between your eyes, it could be bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's still in its primitive stage. You know, I think about my cell phone, and somebody was arguing VR with me the other day and saying, "Oh, VR sucks," and I'm like, "No, it doesn't." and so here's my cell phone, and I'm thinking, 3 years ago, this was like half the size of the screen. 3-4 years, you know. And technology, if you look at the rate that cell phones go up, if you apply that to VR, and when I think of Facebook owning, you know, Oculus, I don't think they're backing out anytime soon. If they go through that kind of growth, the kind of resolution graphics that we could have in 3 to 4 years could put it at a level that will laugh at somebody using a fixed screen anymore. Sitting here today, the newest version, the best version of it, it still has a little screen door. I still don't have long-range visibility that I really need. However, it's so good being in the car like that it's like, I feel like it's something I have to have. So here's a great example. I was in a car, and I was just doing a little interior look around, right? And I just did it just then. I instinctively lifted my arm to look under the seat. And I'm thinking, I didn't have to do that. My arm, the game doesn't know where my real arm is. But I was so sold on being in the reality that that's what happened instinctively. And I just think, if it's that easy to trick your brain, and your eyes will do it, that it's the only way to be. You know, back when Track IR came out, I thought it was a great concept, but when I played with it, I felt like I had to lead the Track IR, and I'm like, that's not how I look to Apex. I look with my eyes, and then maybe my head follows, and Track IR is working off of my head. And with the Oculus, even though you are turning your head, I feel like my eyes are doing the work. I don't feel this back and forth between my neck and my eyes trying to cooperate. It was seamless. And then the last hurdle they're still dealing with, I believe, is there is still a latency. So if you turn your head really quickly, it can't keep up with you. Right. And that will cause nausea for some people. Yeah. Like, if you get car sick, Oculus will maybe give you a little upset feeling.
I was in Texas, and I tried it out, and I was in the Formula Renault at Phillip Island, and I have like a memory of actually being at Phillip Island, because I did what you did. I look around, you know, and you look like a goofball, you know, but you know, you're looking around, and you can lift your head and look over the side of the car. You know, I wanted to pick an open wheeler, and I have like that memory of actually being at the track, you know, which is really neat. Yeah.
And that's the difference. When you're looking at screens, you're looking at screens. When you put on the VR, you are in the game. And the graphics suck. I'm still going to say the graphics suck. They're just not where they need to be. But, wow, even on bad graphics, I'm like, I'm in here. You know, you get out of the car. Now, iRacing has it locked, so you can't get out of the car. But, like, if you do it at Project Cars, for example, and you get out of the car.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen that on a video.
So yeah, I gotta stand up for this because this is kind of funny. But I got out of the car in Project Cars during a live race, and I get out of the car, and all of a sudden cars are coming by, and I got scared, and I like ducked behind the car. And it was like, but my brain, you know, I was there, and that is the real effect of it. And give it time, and it's a must-have. And I'd almost say it's a must-have today for practice, but if you're going to do a race, just I need more depth.
Right.
And if I can't see over 300 yards with clarity, it's not going to work. And so, you know, I'm looking for the tiniest detail to find my braking zone.
Well, that's the thing. I think right now it's just made for as the experience. It wouldn't be for an advantage, you know, a racing advantage.
Exactly.
I know a friend in the iRacing Formula 1 Championship, Olli Pahkala. He's actually done now 2 races with the VR headset, with the Oculus Rift. On the first race, I think he came 4th place or 3rd place, I can't remember. And on the previous race yesterday, he came 5th place.
There you go.
Right. Aliens.
Yeah.
Aliens. They're good no matter what. You give them a 15-inch screen, they'll be fine with that too.
just tend to use Grease Monkey and they'll be all over it.
Well, here's I love this. I love your format, by the way, you guys, because this is something that I don't get to do. Just open chat about stuff like this. But when I run on triples, I don't really look to apex like I should. So again, going to real life, you come into the corner and you look to apex, and your hands and your head follow. You look to the outside of the, you look to where you want the car to go. Mm-hmm. And when I sim race, I find myself a little fixated on the center screen. And so even though the apex is over there on my right-hand screen, I'm still kind of just, I'm cheating a little bit, but not like I should be. And if you were to, like, really coach me as a sim racer, that's the first thing I'd probably change is you need to look just like in real life to where you want to go.
Go practice at Coda for that.
Yeah, for looking to apex.
For looking to because you almost have to because it's because those real tight ones.
130-degree turns or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I use the Oculus, it automatically fixes that I mean, it's like you don't even have to talk about it. It just happens.
Yeah, I'd say it's the wave of the future. I would say for sure. We got another question. What does Shaun think the next big innovation is in sim racing? What's new things does he want to see the most from Sims, I guess, besides VR?
It's the integration of VR. So the other thing that VR needs, and we're a long way from this, I know there's stuff in development. I don't know how long it'll take to get to sim racing, but I need to be able to interact with things in my room as well as be in the virtual world. So, and this is another hurdle for the VR. It's very clumsy, navigating menus, getting into the sim, getting your headset on, making sure it didn't go to sleep.
And then you got your button box and stuff. You got to memorize where the buttons are. Where are my buttons at?
And for a lot of people, I mean, maybe they don't even know all the buttons on their wheel. Right? Maybe they know it's green, not by its position. So when they get it to where you can program a certain amount of stuff into the view to sort of combine the two, then we're really, really talking about a different kind of world. And I'd love to tell you it's motion, but I think motion's still very expensive at the level that we need it to be an enhancement. You need to spend, $20,000 to get quick enough response time to really make motion a bonus or a benefit. So we're a long way from that, in my opinion. And then, I mean, obviously, computers have almost been, for a long time, the games are catching up to the computers. Mm-hmm. And now the games have caught back up to the computers, and now we need that next evolution of the computer that will really allow the physics to go a whole nother layer deep and work that much faster. But that's just the normal evolution. I don't think of that as the next thing. I really do think VR and its integration is the biggest, best thing for sim racing.
This is something else VR needs to sort out.
Oh,
glasses users. I can't, I don't know if JP can, I can't race without my glasses on. Even if the screens are there. I'm practically blind in one eye. I need to wear my glasses. So, and there's a few lads who've tried it who said after about 10 minutes, it's really uncomfortable.
Yep.
So they need to make a compensation for people with glasses as well.
I think.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just trying to comment that it's just. I think it's for some personal preference. Can you put that kind of VR headset? What is currently now on your head? Are you comfortable with that? So.
Yeah, it's. And you get all sweaty. There needs to be like an anti-fog thing or something,
Yeah, well, actually, Craig Clark's the other day, he's actually put his Oculus Rift away. He said, because obviously we're having a heat wave in England at the moment, and he said, "Can't wear it. It's just too hot." Yeah. He says it's just killing us.
On about this stuff, I happened to stumble upon it was a Microsoft sponsored thing on Facebook where they were showing off the Google Glass recently, or the Microsoft Glass.
Microsoft HoloLens.
Yeah, and that looked absolutely incredible. It's just a pair of glasses you put on, And the guy was like, and what he was all interacting with, like the room around him. So like there was stuff climbing through the walls, and he had to shoot it and all this sort of stuff. I know it's still very early yet, but that would be kind of amazing.
Have you seen how
Just a
much
pair of
that's gonna
glasses you could
cost?
put on.
Yeah, that's
It's
the
gonna cost
augmented
you
reality,
thousands.
like the Pokemon Go stuff,
Yeah.
where you're
Yeah.
seeing real world, but then it's adding
Yes.
digital stuff. Okay.
I'm actually waiting more for the AR than VR because I think there's more potential than in the augmented reality than in the virtual reality.
Okay.
Because I think quite well. I have got some feedback from the VR headset that people don't want to be in the VR because it feels like they're closed from the real life. So, but again, it's just a personal preference for some. So,
I've already got my little spinny top for when if I ever do get Oculus, so I can spin it and tell if I'm actually out of it or not.
Oh, well, it's just going to turn into like the movie Surrogates or like the Matrix where we just lay down and they just shove like a huge probe up the back of your brain and then you just go race like a real race with all your friends.
yeah.
There was a really old film actually called Existence, where you used to do that, and you used to have like a hole in the bottom of your back, and like the controller was it looked like Afterbirth but with like ridges on it, and you used to plug yourself into it, and of course again it was kind of like Inception, you know, where you just forget if you're actually in the game or not. Brilliant.
Right. There you go.
Yeah, you know, we're probably a lot closer to all of that than we know.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a matter of when, you know, and will it be widely accepted?
Right.
I don't want to get hacked at that point. You know?
Yeah, really. Yeah. That's the problem, you know.
I reckon the DDoS would sting a little bit.
So, another question would be, we're getting Le Mans. These are big. We got the Nordschleife. We get all these big tracks that they're laser scanning. What would be the next big track that we would get, and what would you want it to be? I guess.
Okay. I have an interesting answer to this one, and dirt coming to iRacing does one thing for me. So not even saying whether I like or dislike dirt and the concept. In my mind, iRacing has, I don't want to use this wording, but I'm going to because it's simple. In some way, shape, or form, they have to lower their standards of what they consider perfection. And by that, I mean the track itself. So when I look at Long Beach or New Jersey, and I think, why aren't these finished? And a big part of it is because the data, blah, 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 blah. Well, if they're going to go to dirt, you can't have perfection because if the wind blows, the track changed. So whatever it is, they're going to have to concede to that. The other thing is if they're going to do rallycross, how are they going to go laser scan? Those are going to be made-up tracks, which is new. So if iRacing uncorks the bottle and lets the genie out of the bottle on, we made this track, this is not a laser scan track of Earth, it opens the door to anything. So, to answer the question, what do I want? I want Kiami. You know, before the interview, we talked about Grand Prix Legends. You know, if there's one track that I want to drive, it's Kiami. And it's because it's the first track of the season from GPL, and there's no track in sim racing that I have more laps on than that one. And so I would really love to have that track back. And the only way it's going to come to an iRacing is if they lower their standards and just kind of work with it. Nordschleife is another case where they couldn't do it the way they'd done every other track. So all of a sudden they've already kind of opened a smaller genie's bottle, and that gets back to Long Beach and New Jersey and what would it take to finish those off. So Kiami. And then the last thing, and then I'll shut up. I'd love to see some street circuits. You know, you talk about American open-wheeled racing, and it's always had a street circuit or two on the schedule. And Long Beach is unfinished. I love that kind of track, and I'd really like to see, even if it was fantasy, I'd love to see that.
Well,
kind
right.
of track.
Why don't they just put some buildings up? They already got the track. Just make it look decent. I'd be fine with it. I'd love having Long Beach.
See, the thing is, we have Long Beach on Forza, and there's not actually that much on the track on the Forza side, and they could just stick a few buildings up, like you say, a few trees. we're spending more time looking at the grey bit in the middle than what's on the off to the side.
Yeah, it's more
It's only for
peripheral.
replay that's
Exactly.
off to the side matters.
Going. Just sort of saying about what you were on about that they got to stop being so anal retentive, if you like, about getting every detail right with the new tracks. For some time now, it's always been a bit of a pain. Well, a bit of a pain in my ass actually. But when they have a new track, the load times are like extortionate. I know you can handle that with Node Shit Life, but it's not just that. It's things like frame drops. Like, they've built other tracks in the past, like when Donington first come out, and it's still the same with Suzuka now. You seem to get lag. Well, not lag, but like tiny micro stutters when it's loading up the pit lane.
Yeah.
And like you can go down past the straight in Suzuka, and then when you're doubling back on yourself in turn one, you come in around turn one, and it's just like you get micro stutters.
So I'm not the only one.
Yeah, no,
No,
everybody.
everybody.
It's
It's just too
it's
much.
a real pain in my ass.
The trackside objects, when there's a lot of them, it's just they can't handle it. So that maybe they should just dumb it down.
Yep.
We don't need it to be perfect. In the replay, yeah, you can have higher graphics, but they should have like separate versions. Stuff. The textures that load during the race are different than the replay for the trackside objects.
It seems to be any track that they've done after, everyone which doesn't have a full pace lap. So it's like everything from then on has the stutter with the pit when you're loading up the pits.
Maybe that's the reason they don't want to do Long Beach, because they know it's just going to be massive. No one's going to be able to handle it. Like, I'm getting 10 frames a second. This is ridiculous, and it'd be almost throughout the entire track because there's stuff everywhere on that track. So maybe that's one of the reasons.
Quite possibly. I'd love to see them, and again, genie out of the bottle kind of thinking, but, talking like the Boston IndyCar race that didn't happen. So Indy was supposed to go to Boston this year. They had the map all planned out. It was going to be a cool street course. So, it would even be iRacing's home track, really. So anyway, that would be a good one. It's like, hey, get Google Maps, measure it. You can figure out the build. You guys can go photograph it in the case of Boston. So, I don't know. They're not going to do that. They're not listening to me, that's for sure.
Albert Park, I want to see. I really want to see Albert Park.
They don't listen to us either, because we specifically had a list of demands, and one of them was we want a grid button. So have you heard about the grid button?
No.
So let's say you host like a 4-hour practice session, and you get everybody in there. It's just practice. So an admin could do ! Grid, and then it would kick everybody out, give them a minute to grid, and you can start over and over and over. Your race starts. So as soon as you grid and you start, then you can do it again and do it again and do it again. Because when are the most crashes? As soon as that green flag waves. Yep. So we want that grid button. Dang it. Oh, man.
I would want to see the new Silverstone layout. We were actually racing on Fantasy Track when we were racing on a Silverstone track in iRacing.
I prefer iRacing's layout, in all honesty. I really don't like the new Silverstone.
I haven't even seen. What did they change?
It's turn 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 or something like that. They're all
Really?
different, yeah.
Wow. Well, that's iRacing for you. They scan a track, they release it, and then boom, they repave it or they change it. You hear about it in the news. But,
I think we
Hey,
need some more
an
Grand Prix
opportunity
tracks.
to resell the track.
yeah.
Some more Formula 1 tracks would be lovely. Like Catalonia, I'd like, and Albert Park is always. I'll always love Melbourne. I'd love that place. It's amazing in the Formula 1 games.
It's not
Catalonia,
Monaco.
I've always
We don't
liked.
want Monaco.
No,
That's a horrible track. that.
it's going to be it's going to be a train, isn't it? It's going to be like VIR with no runoffs.
I think it also
yeah.
well, there are a lot of country club tracks here in America.
Yes.
So, that don't get seen by the circuit, but they're well known by car enthusiasts. Thermal Park, for example. I think it'd be cool to have some of those because they're off the beaten path, and it kind of allows more of a novelty that we don't get in iRacing so much.
And they're easily scannable, meaning they're just open there. They'd be like, come in 2 days, boom. We got one here in Chicago area, the Autobahn Country Club. It's got 3 or 4 different configurations. I've driven on it. It's great track. And, they could just have them come in for a couple days, get it done. There wouldn't be all this hoopla about, when are we going to get them in to scan it? We got a big race coming up or, whatnot. And just get it done. I figured that'd be pretty nice, but...
And the scenery is easy. You know, it ends up being like being at Lime Rock, you know, where it's like, a couple cars in the building, but other than that, you know, you don't have 48 haulers and flags and pack stands, and it's
exactly.
like, you know, I mean, I actually like that in Lime Rock when I'm in iRacing. I like that it's just kind of a quiet club feeling type track.
That's very true.
You know,
we need smaller tracks for the more default content. I think get a couple more smaller tracks for the Mazda to run, because we do a lot of advanced Mazda where they put the big tracks on and then it's all just drafting, and you know, that'd be nice.
One thing I would like to see, considering the tracks, is that maybe iRacing opening some kind of Kickstarter for getting new tracks, like they would work out or they will ask what price it would be to get one track, and they would like then do a crowdfunding for that, and then that way people could like vote with their wallets, do they want that track or not.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah,
I like.
Do you hear
JP's like
money already?
JP's like alien voice like coming through the Skype.
Yeah, it does.
No, he's getting a reverb through. Shaun.
That's when you know the probing's coming. Well, we got a question about content. Do we want more and more content from iRacing, or do we want them to actually like fix and make their the current content more efficient? People always complain about issues with big events, the servers. You know, I know there's different resources picked for either one, but does iRacing need to continually come out with content to keep people's attention and their subscriptions?
Yes, of course they do, and they need to fix it shit as well.
Yeah.
So
they need all of the above. Get it together.
Well, and
we don't want much. We just want everything.
And their competitors are doing all the above, so you know, they really have to. You know, Assetto Corsa comes out with cars that people want to experience. You know, Project Cars comes out with cars that people want to experience, and iRacing has a nice lineup of cars, but you know, they're really poor on that iconic car count. You know, and I think that is important. You know, I mean, I'll just say it. I want to drive a Ferrari. Everyone wants to drive a car. You know, and you know, and that's another topic. You know, decades of sim racing. You know, I've always had a hard time converting my friends to sim racing. I don't know what it is. I don't know if the people don't race. I don't know if it's a weird game. I don't know, but
because they're scrubs. That's right. That's right. My attitude is.
But the one thing I'm always saying when I'm making my argument is what makes sim racing so great is pick any car, any track, any generation, and you can do it in sim racing. And all of the other sims seem to understand that concept. But with iRacing and their structure, I can't really make that claim if that's the sim that I'm really gravitating towards. It's like, well, if somebody comes over and they're like, well, can I drive a Ferrari? It's like, yeah, let me fire up this game. You know, and that happens often. So, you know, I think that on content, I think the cars might sell things more than the tracks. The tracks might appease us more, but I think you can market a Ferrari more than you can a new track for the most part.
Now, let's say they don't have the licensing for stuff, but could they still make like the older cars, even if it has the late? Like, I want a muscle car, a vintage muscle car series where they get the 60s and the 70s muscle cars, put them together, boom, you got a series right there. They still need to get all the licensing for those cars, though, even though they're using an older version, I would imagine.
Yes.
That's stupid.
I'd love to see the 80s British touring cars or early 90s. I would literally cream all over myself for them.
And I think there are a lot of cars like that. I mean, Group C, you know everyone would go nuts if Group C cars came into iRacing. You know, do you get all the licenses or do you just need the Sauber? I don't know. But you know, licensing is a real sore subject of sim racing. You know, it's been our Achilles heel from really getting to where we want to go.
Well, Gran Turismo had a massive pain in the ass with licenses, didn't they? Because, like, in order for them to get a lot of them, this is why some of the early, like the very first couple of Gran Turismos, you used to see like body damage, not massive amounts, but enough. But then, in order for them to get, I think it was like Ferrari were one of the biggest pushers for it. They didn't want them to have their cars if they were going to show them in any sort of damaged state, so they had to sign that in order to get the license.
Yep.
I have heard
Which
that.
is ridiculous.
What's with these guys? Like, come on.
Well, Ferrari
That's
are a
crazy.
bit like addicts like that anyway, because like anybody that watches the UK Top Gear, they had the the hybrids, the new hybrids. They've done the new hybrid for McLaren, Porsche, and Ferrari, and they wanted to race them around because they got a test track, haven't they, where they show like the speeds of them, and Ferrari wouldn't let them do it unless they actually brought a whole team over and like a custom built one which would never be sold to a customer. It was one they were going to do specifically for that. Porsche wouldn't do it for some other reason, and I think the only ones that were tidy about it were McLaren. But they would each put their own individual rules in there because they wanted to get like the
it's all about perception,
yeah,
to the public.
Yes, exactly. So they basically could never ever face all three off against each other to see how fast they were. It's a bit of a shambles.
Yeah.
I think there are loopholes to the licensing rule, but I don't know that iRacing likes exploiting them. But like now, and I could be completely wrong. This is just open discussion, but I believe that so I own a Datsun 240Z. I think that I can give my car, not give them literally the car, but give them the car to scan, and they can scan Shaun Cole's 240Z. Now, that did not give them the Nissan or Datsun license to have a variety of them, but I believe that they can scan an owner's car. So, for example, the late model is Dale Earnhardt's Camaro. Or not the street stock, I'm sorry. Is Earnhardt's Camaro. I don't know if they ever got licensed from Chevrolet or if it was just, hey, Dale let us scan his car. So I don't know, what loopholes there are, but there might be scenarios. And I remember, it was Sim Raceway, and the guy who runs Sim Raceway years ago told me that they could model any car that they got permission from the owner. Now, they're a completely different company than iRacing, legally speaking.
Someone in chat saying that they can do that, but then they can't sell it, so it'd have to be default. Maybe that's why the street stock's default content. I don't know.
Yeah.
It'll
Maybe
also
they don't
mean
want
as
to
well
exploit that too much.
Yeah, it'll also mean that they can't advertise it as having like a Ferrari 5458.
Yeah.
Right.
And on about like I would think I just popped in my head now. Like I was saying about Ferrari being like so super anal about it. Well, they did get their hands on all three cars, and they had them all at the studio. They had them all there, and they were desperate to do them. And they came from they all come from one Iranian sheik, right? Because he had all three.
Oh, yeah.
And Ferrari turned round and told him that if Top Gear did the test like he wanted it to, because they had to sign a waiver saying they wouldn't do it, if Top Gear or anybody else did this thing and it was this guy's car that was used, they would ban him from ever being able to buy another Ferrari again.
Oh my goodness.
No Enzo for you.
Yeah.
Ridiculous, isn't it? And like, he's like a multi-billionaire and he buys every single special Ferrari that ever comes out, and he's like, yeah, well, we'll just stop you. Sod you.
Yeah. Oh, and there's someone saying the street stock's not advertised as a Chevy, it's just the street stock, so.
Yeah, that's it. You couldn't put the actual branding on the car.
Oh man. They should just have everybody show up with their old muscle cars, start scanning them in.
The thing is, if they're that bothered about, like, saying you can't use Ferrari because we don't want it to show it damaged, have they ever seen an online race on Forza? Forza's got Ferraris in, and they get punted about left, right, and centre, and depending on what damage level you've got on it, you can have it. Same in a set of cars, online races is complete carnage, the same as every other sim out there.
Maybe they're just ponying up the money more for the, maybe iRacing.
I think it's just down to money.
They've dropped that now, though, haven't they? Like the whole thing about damage, because it was only very early on when like Gran Turismo was the one. It was for Gran Turismo to get their license. They couldn't do it. That's why they didn't do it with any cars.
I mean, geez, we're not asking for much. We just want every single car ever made laser scanned in the sim and every track. I mean, come on, make it happen.
Yeah. Quick physics.
I mean, they raised subscription costs $1. I mean, come on, they don't got enough money now.
What do you guys think about the rumor of Porsche license being dropped off from EA?
It has been dropped.
Yeah.
Because Assetto Corsa got it.
Yeah.
I said, of course.
And I think Project Cars told too that they're gonna get a Porsche DLC coming up.
So is Porsche
I
being a
think
little bit
they've
more friendly
learned
now?
after what happened with EA having the complete hold on it and nobody else. I think now they're going to just say, right, well, we'll sell you the license, but we're also going to sell them the license.
It doesn't
rather
make
than just leave it to one company like what they did before.
Yeah, it doesn't make financial sense for them
They
because
killed
with all
themselves,
the games that are coming out with cars and that now, surely it makes more financial sense to sell it to everybody rather than just to one.
Sure.
I think so.
There's no way that anybody's going to be able to pony up enough money to lock everybody else out of the market.
Yeah.
See, at some point, the car companies need to understand, gaming is bigger than the movies. Sure, sim racing is a niche of the gaming industry, but gaming is huge, and it's everywhere. And car companies need to realize and see it more as an opportunity for marketing and advertising than, like, instead of trying to charge money, you're not going to get paid a ton of money from Assetto Corsa for a license, but you might make a lot of fans of your car by utilizing Assetto Corsa.
Yep.
So years and years ago, Forza had the Cadillac V-Series car pack as free download. And I thought, they probably didn't pay Cadillac. I bet Cadillac came to them and said, we really want these 3 cars in your sim, in your game. And then they were given free. And I think when that happened, Cadillac's name was like nowhere in America. This is when Cadillac was still like what your grandfather drove. And they had just come out with the CTS-V and the XLV or whatever the 2-seater was. But that was part of the Cadillac boom, and Cadillac is back. And I'm not saying it's because of Forza, but I think that they made a lot of fans that 10 years later, maybe these were kids who were 14 playing, going, oh, cool, the Cadillac's badass.
Yep.
And then 10 years later, they're making money, and they're like, I'm getting a CTS-V. It's my dream luxury car, you know?
It's just like the movies where if a car company wants their car in a movie, they pay them.
Yeah.
And not the other way around. It's like, what the heck, man?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's crazy.
And I think we'll get there. At some point, the pendulum will switch because somebody will start to get attention and profit from being in a game when the other companies are being forgotten and or not talked about. And it's like, well, even Ferrari, the mighty Ferrari, who sells their license like it's gold, might be like, well, Lamborghini's just getting too much attention by being in these sims and games or other forms of marketing because they're open about it. And we're being difficult, and we're losing market share, and our silver-haired owners are dying off.
Yeah. Times are changing, Sean. Times are changing.
Actually, one that I was going to go though, because most companies are owned by like 1 or 2 people, innit? Like Volkswagen owns like a metric fuck ton, and they own Audi, Volkswagen,
Skoda,
Lamborghini as well.
Skoda.
They have something to do with them. Skoda. So everybody owns everybody. So it's probably only about 3 or 4 different car makers, and you get all of them under your belt, and you've got access to pretty much everything.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
We have a question. Question from Eric and staff in the GripTV Discord Hangout channel. What does Shaun do for fun in sim racing when he's not making videos? Favorite car and track combination, and so on.
That's a great question. I am partial to open-wheeled road racing. So if it really comes down to it, and I'm going to probably run the Formula One or the IndyCar, I really, really like dropping down to like the Mazda level. And I don't mean dropping down. I actually think it's more competition, less about perfection, more about competition. So, I just like anything that I can get a good crowd. That's my first requirement. I hate running in a small crowd. I like lots of people. I like a big grid.
Those Formula Renault races, man, that's where you got to get in on that action. That is so much fun. It's been a blast this season the last.
See, and I haven't gotten to drive that car hardly at all because I've kind of been away from sim racing. I mean, I literally haven't had a rig in my house for 6 months.
Wow.
So I would go to CXC and we would run on Wednesday nights as a small group, more like a LAN party, because we were all, even though we were using iRacing, we were all physically in the same room running motion sims. And that's a lot of fun, but you're talking 8 or 9 people versus, 30 people, which you just can't beat that.
Well, you're back now on the old The Sim Pit, and it's is it simpit.com as well?
It's thesimpit.com.
Okay, and the Sim Pit on YouTube. Couple of recent videos from you, and we're gonna be wrapping things up here. But what can we expect to be seeing? You got a video like in the editing software right now, ready to come out, or what can we expect here in the near future? If you want to give us a little glimpse.
I do. Well, okay, so I have the RC N1 back there, and I did something a little different. You know, I'm always I literally am always putting out videos and then trying to see what reaction it causes to find out what people really want the most. You know, and so getting back to the DIY, I did the long version, and I thought nobody's going to watch this. It's hours long. It's crap. No one cares. And it turns out that it got watched a lot. So, and then I used to do like unboxing of products during the review, and I thought, that's cool, but what a waste of time. If you want a review, you want a review. I could care less about the box, unless there was damage. And sim companies don't always use fancy packaging, so anyway, I decided to do a long version of the build, and I don't even know how it's going to come out yet. This is another one of those just explorations to see. So I put a GoPro on my head and filmed the you know, with a camera and a GoPro. I don't even know if the GoPro is like, I think it was aimed a little off, but, and then I did some close-up shots. So it's like a 2.5 hour build of a rig that should take an hour to build, but with unboxing and doing it on camera, it ended up taking 2.5 hours. So I'll edit it down.
Like Matt's did.
Yeah, mine took like 2 full days. Well, now where'd I put that Allen wrench? Where's that Allen wrench at? That was half of the build. Well, we love to see your stuff over there at the Sim Pit, and what we like about you is that you're very genuine, and you're a solid part of the community, and I think everyone respects your stuff, and we actually believe you with your reviews and stuff, which is great because it's hard to find raw honesty sometimes. So keep up the good work. And how did you enjoy your first GripTV Hangout?
I had a blast, you guys. This has been a lot of fun. I honestly could do this all day. You're like, oh, it's time to wrap it up. I'm like, wait, we haven't touched on like a bunch of stuff.
Now, Shaun, we got Strength of Field Sunday here today with Advanced Mazda. Now I gotta get racing here.
We always find that though. We do a hangout, just like
into it.
Yeah.
With the hangouts, we always find that we got stuff we want to talk about, and then we get to the end, and it's like, oh shit, we didn't talk about anything that we wanted to do.
Well, we plan on doing. We used to do a hangout every other week, every fortnight, but maybe we'll keep it to every month or something. We'll see how it goes. If you guys really enjoyed it, let us know, and it'll be on YouTube if you guys missed it. Don't forget the GripTV Live YouTube, where you can see broadcasts of the Lotus 49 races. That's every Friday at 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we also do one more. Oh, the Muscle Car Madness race with the Street Stocks is tonight. That'll be the final one for Braden's League. That'll be on the GripTV Live broadcast as well. Don't forget to follow the Twitter and all that good stuff. Go to soon.griptvteam.com to see the team page, the new team page, where you can see the full list of the GripTV streamers. It's the GripTV Stream Dream Team. But I'm going to cue the epic music, and we're going to do our outro. Thank you so much to Shaun. Thank you to Air Messy and Man Cave and J Plays. You guys are the best. GripTV Nation, thank you guys for joining us. And like I said, if you missed any of the Hangout, it'll be on YouTube later today. And join us for some Strength of Field racing. You guys doing any racing today on the streams?
I'm not streaming.
Hopefully GTC if it goes official.
There you go. Man Cave going to be doing GTC, so do that multi